Everybody have their mics on? It's up to you, isn't it? You're good? Okay. Welcome, everyone.
Recording in progress.
I'll say that again. Welcome, everyone, to the Chatham Township Committee meeting of June 25th, 2024. Mr. LeConte, has adequate notice been given?
Yes, adequate notice of this meeting. The Township Committee was given as required by the Open Public Meetings Act as follows. Notice was given to the Chatham Courier and the Morris County Daily Record on January 3rd, 2024. Notice was posted on the bulletin board in the main hallway of the municipal building on January 3rd, 2024. And notice was filed with the Township Clerk on January 3rd, 2024.
Thank you. Can I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Lois?
Present.
Mr. McHugh?
Here.
Mrs. Rowland?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Choi?
Here.
Mayor Ewald?
Here.
We have the full committee.
Thank you. We won't be going into executive session, so we can remove that. And I would ask everybody rise for the flag salute, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we are going to start with our citizenship award, but I do not have it, so I'm going to, thank you. My apologies, my notes are scattered here. And part of why I want to check my notes is because there's so many wonderful things this person has done, and I don't want to miss the long list of things. But I'll start off. I just wanted to recognize and honor Jessica Romeo. It is not unusual to get notes from Jessica either saying that she has an idea or she's completed some work in the community to better our community completely on our own. I have met her. There's been initiatives, and I found her planting plants throughout our town, involved in putting out mulch, cleaning up trails for the Scouts, so many numerous events that she's held for our Girl Scouts. One that I participated in, a mental health program that she ran all day, and it was such a wonderful program. But this is just par for the course. And that doesn't even count her work with the Environmental Commission, which she has led, including taking on the huge task of qualifying us for our New Jersey Sustainability Award, which, as many of you know, is a very difficult and detailed task. But leading that effort of the Environmental Commission, and as I said, leading the Scouts. There's been a number of other things she's worked on over the years. I remember when she had initiated the MLK Luminary Project, you know, and again, I got a lot of the Scouts involved in the community and a lot of the children otherwise in the community through the library. I remember the diversity potluck that she had hosted, which was an amazing event I would love to see come back to Chatham, where everybody had contributed things that represented their history and their background, and everybody had bites to share. Maybe we're not able to do those types of things in post-COVID, but it was really a neat event, and it brought the community together, and everybody had such a wonderful time. The Pilgrim Pipeline, my goodness, also instrumental, and there were a lot of people involved with that, but she was also instrumental in making sure we addressed that so that wouldn't come through our community, because the worry was that it was going to come through the community in the right of way. So she was very much involved in that project. So I wanted to bring Jessica up to say thank you for all her efforts, and I truly apologize because I know there's a list of many more that I've missed, but thank you so much. I appreciate all your efforts. Hopefully not from planting in the climate. Classic Star Citizenship Award, and you get the pin. Thank you very much. It's a family affair. Certainly, if anybody had an interest in coming up and speaking, I welcome that regarding Jessica and our contributions.
Hello. So I just like to say Jessica's been my friend for, we don't want to say the years. But I met Kathy Abbott, Wynwood Road, and met her at the farmer's market. Another thing, that was not leadership, it was salesmanship. But I just remember her having a business baking the best baked goods ever, really beating the other ones that were competing. At the farmer's market when Asher was really little, right? And also Jessica has a natural green thumb. I mean, she's on the Environmental Commission, but she can grow things, and I know she said she used to go to the community garden or the community greenhouse in Maplewood with her dad, and just learned, it's in her blood to grow things and to remember, okay, after the peas, first you plant the peas, then you plant she knows the next thing and what you take out to put the next thing in. So she's always got a succession. And so, in a way, sustainability is in her blood for the Environmental Commission. And social justice just speaks up when she feels something is not equitable, not fair, not serving everybody. So it just comes naturally to her, and that's why I like her. And I can't hug her because she has poison ivy. And why is that?
Can I just say a quick thank you?
Sure.
I want to say, Jessica Romeo, Pine Street. I want to say a quick thank you, and I think this is so important to me because it shows my kids that what I do isn't just mom being a weirdo. It's mom making a difference and impacting people, and every little thing you do counts. And we're lucky to live in a community where you can throw out the weirdest, craziest idea, and people will support you and back you and help you see it happen. So I think that's great, and that's what makes Chatham Chatham. Thank you.
Thank you. And Kathy did remind me of your work on the community garden, and also you really coordinated contributing some of the yield from the community garden to the food pantry in the borough, which is really awesome. And you're doing this on top of raising your children and on top of having a full-time job. So appreciated, and lots of respect to you as well for managing all of that.
Hi, Maureen Kelly, Mountain Avenue. I just want to echo all the stuff everybody has said about Jessica. I don't think her kids even understand that they have like a fantabulous mother who does all of this stuff, and some of which is just to show them how people ought to live. But I'm glad you mentioned about the community garden on top of everything else. Jessica single-handedly started putting out a cooler on Tuesday nights to get people to contribute their leftover stuff. And, I've been with her there where, we're picking the beans and we're kind of taking the zucchinis that people neglect to cut and get them to people who can use them. And it's just such an important thing to be aware. And she certainly makes this whole town a better place to live in. So I'm so glad that you've recognized her.
Thank you.
Lisa McHugh, Ormont Road. I want to say thank you for this award for Jessica because I feel she really deserves it. Her passion is unbelievable, and I think she leads by example. So I'm really proud of you, Jessica. Good job. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to all the Environmental Commission members who are here as well for all your work.
Can I say a couple things too?
Sure.
As well. Jessica and I had daughters that were in the same Girl Scout troop, and it was Jessica was always the first one to show up, always thinking about new things that we could do with the girls that were really important and relevant to them. I think it had a huge impact on everyone in our troop, and she was just drove the troop in the right direction and was just so actively engaged and just got everybody else more actively engaged because it's hard when there's so many competing priorities. And then when she did the Luminary project, it was great. We showed up, and it was really important to me, my family, and it left a big impact on my kids and making the luminaries for the community. So thank you.
Yeah, I also recall her repurposing those deadly political signs that are all over town with the scouts and painting over every single one in white so that the kids could write messages of hope and kindness on the signs, which was an excellent use for those signs. So thank you for that as well.
Can I say a word?
Sure.
I am the most recently most thankful one as I participate with Jessica, certainly on the Environmental Commission and the liaison for the community garden, et cetera. But there are those, the one item I'd like to just point out is those that participate, and we certainly advocate and promote for anyone listening out there to participate in volunteerism of the within the community and the civic duty. But there are those that participate and are involved, and then there are also those who have that next level and are people that just get it done. And that's the way I think about Jessica, and I hope you all appreciate the amount of things and the length of time that Jess has been involved in a varied, not just a single item or category, but really you heard Girl Scouts, you heard Community Garden, you heard Environmental Commission, you heard luminaries. You hear a lot of things, and this is just a great example, not just for her kids, but all of our kids, and frankly, a lot of the adults in the community too, who can we encourage certainly to get involved. So thank you very much, Jessica. It's very well deserved.
Okay, well, this is a perfect segue to the mayor's message and my opening announcement. I am pleased to announce that the township is now the proud owner of the beautiful 17-acre parcel at 422 Southern Boulevard, commonly known as the Fensky property. The acquisition has been a long time in the works. While there's been some bumps along the way, thankfully, through patience and persistence, we were able to see this through and close on the purchase on Friday. It is a win for open space and a win for our community. Our Open Space Committee has had an interest in acquiring the property for nearly a decade, given the environmental sensitivity of the land and the proximity to the Great Swamp. The parcel is next to Nashfield, and while the primary goal is to protect and preserve the wetlands and the natural habitat abutting the Great Swamp, the township will also explore access from Nashfield to a small lot in the interior for use by our recreation programs. I'd like to thank the Open Space Committee, their chair, Joe Bezralian, the Trust for Public Land, and the Morris County Open Space Trust for their work in securing the grant that's funding nearly half of the $750,000 cost of the property. I'd like to thank our administrator, our township engineer, attorneys, and township staff for staying the course and doing all they could to bring this to a close. Finally, I'd like to thank the Fenske family. As many know, Helen Fenske was instrumental in protecting the Great Swamp from the development of an airport. While the Helen Fenske Center in Basking Ridge honors her contributions to our area, it seems appropriate that her family and the township honor her work by protecting and preserving this land. There are a few items on the agenda this evening that I want to highlight. First, we have two ordinances related to the 2024 capital plan, ordinances 2024-14 and 2024-15. $4 million of the capital plan is related to public safety, including the acquisition of 2 fire trucks to replace trucks that are past their useful life, the acquisition of fire safety equipment, and of police vehicles. As our administrator explained at our last meeting, these ordinances provide the authorization to incur the related debt, which allows the township to engage in the equipment purchase contracts. Debt will only be incurred if and when it's needed. The township will still pursue grant and other funding where feasible. Also on the agenda is Resolution 2024-16, authorizing a deed of historic preservation easement. This is in connection with the work that was done at the Red Brick Schoolhouse, also done with grant funding that the Chatham Township Historical Society secured for those improvements at the Red Brick Schoolhouse. If you pass there, as I often do, you had the opportunity to watch as the deteriorating exterior was restored. The end result is amazing to see. I want to thank the members of the Historical Society Board and especially the Wells sisters, Pat and Martha, for all their work securing the grant and planning for the restoration. The last agenda item I wanted to mention is Resolution 2024-154, designating TD Bank as our depository. It's been a goal of our administrators for some time now to review our banking relationship and to maximize returns on our funds while expanding the servicing that's critical to maintaining the township accounts. This reappointment of TD Bank as a depository accomplishes both, expanding the services we receive while also increasing the yield on our bank balances. Thank you to our administrator, our CFO, and our finance committee for all your work on this effort. Lastly, we've heard from residents recently regarding the Fairmont Avenue Improvements Project. While I've heard from many folks who are pleased with the changes, there are certainly some who were surprised by the scope of the work and who've indicated concerns related to traffic flow and safety. This project has been in the works for a couple of years now and has gone through the normal public meeting approval process, public hearings, and notification to residents. The project is focused on ensuring ADA compliance for crosswalks and enhancing pedestrian and traffic safety by improving visibility and sight lines. Our administrator, engineer, police department, and township committees, past and present, were all involved in the planning, and the project has been reviewed by the county and the State Department of Transportation. The project is fully funded by NJTOD grant money. If there are any questions or if anyone has interest in seeing the public presentation, please feel free to reach out to me or to our township administrator. Thank you. And now we'll move on to the Environmental Commission's annual report.
Hi, Jessica, Chair of the Township Environmental Commission. I'm going to keep it really short. You guys have the annual report. I think I emailed it a couple months ago. So in 2023, highlights were engaging with the community education and outreach, conducting tri-town yard sales, native plant sales, a few cleanups, things like that. I did want to give a special thank you to our DPW, has been the most amazing partner we could have hoped for. They're really supportive in our endeavors, and they help us whenever we need help, which is amazing. Our administration for helping us always and listening to us, and to the elected body for helping us as well. We do things like update Sustainable Jersey, our natural resources inventory. We review zoning and planning board applications. So we tap into some of our experts, and everyone couldn't be better in helping us. So I just wanted to have a thank you to everyone for that. We expanded some native plant gardens. We conducted the sustainability fair. We had a presence at the Township Fall Festival, which was great. That's about it. I think for 2024, our highlights are receiving a couple of grants, which were super exciting. So we're going to work on our little reforestation project at Shun Pike and keeping an eye on issues related to climate change. I think with the heat wave we're experiencing, we can all relate to the fact that we're experiencing these increased, more frequent, more intense weather patterns, whether it's rainstorms or heat waves. Those things all have an impact on our community, our physical health, our financial health. When someone's yard floods, that's an impact on them. So the Environmental Commission keeps an eye on things like this, and I think we want to just be aware of development practices in town and protecting our wetlands. So the Fenske property is a great thing because that's protecting our wetlands, which absorb all the water. And we want to focus on keeping things like proper water infiltration in place rather than impervious coverage on municipal parking lots and areas like that. So, I don't know if anyone has questions for us, what we did this past year.
Any questions? Great. Yeah, thank you. I just want to thank everybody for all your work on the Environmental Commission. They often will step in, even quietly behind the scenes, to look into things for us that either residents have expressed an interest or, you know, the Township Committee is considering, and we try and get the input and advice of the Environmental Commission. So above and beyond the things that you listed, I know they're always a resource for the committee whenever we have questions. So I really appreciate everybody's efforts.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to Township Committee reports. Mr. Lois?
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, for utilities, kind of have one for every one of our utilities here. We have, so New Jersey American Water did some lateral improvements off the water main last year on Southern Boulevard specifically, and there was a lot of asphalt patching that was done on the sidewalks, and that has been largely replaced in the last few weeks with permanent sidewalks, which is a nice upgrade for the neighbors there on Southern Boulevard. For natural gas, PSE&G has announced lower rates. I'll have more on this coming, but they've announced that they'll be lowering rates this year, which is amazing. And for JCP&L, they're still looking for an opportunity to come and present the Energize NJ improvements, whatever they might be, and they will be looking for the opposite. They will be looking for a rate increase this year. So that's, but if we can make some time for them, that would still, I think we should put that on our agenda. In terms of Colony Pools, we just had our first swim team meet last night. That was the big event for Colony Pool, and so there's still time if you are a swimmer and you'd like to get involved. You can. There's 7 more meets, I believe, over the next few weeks, and it's a fun time for all. I don't have registration information to update because I was denied, although I was asked twice of the administration to provide the registration information. So for the first time that I can remember following these events here, that we don't have a registration update for Colony Pool. And as far as our recreation and DPW, I'll leave that to my counterparts. Thank you.
Okay. Committeeman McHugh.
Okay, I have a couple touch points on a couple as well. So let's start with open space and the follow-on, not to belabor something, but a huge congratulations, certainly to the town and really to the Fenske family. It's an additional part of that legacy, really, and congratulations and thanks to everybody involved for a very long time to finally close that out. That's terrific, terrific news. There has been much discussion in the open space subcommittee for the progressive lovers of history, particularly down on the Hillside Avenue Trail. There are developing opportunities for more volunteer participation, so pay attention because of improvements on the crib and perhaps a kiosk giving some helpful information of the goings-on over the course of the years, and even what a corn crib is if you're not familiar with today's suburban environment. Thanks to, of course, Rich Young and the DPW for ordering the signage, which will be up there shortly at the Hillside Avenue Trail. As many of you know or not aware, I would actually take notice of the signs around town, even from entering into town through the various facilities and fields. You'll notice a real great consistency of the two white posts, the green, the seal of the town. They're really, it's a very attractive element of identifying locations. And there will be an additional one down on the Hillside Trail shortly. So thanks to the guys for that. I would also like to point out and thank the JCs for their contribution. They've contributed with some of their grants recently, throwing in $1,000 to help that progress along. Moving on, and not to belabor that one, we've had a lot of mention tonight on the Environmental Commission. We can announce additional opportunities for volunteerism, and that is on the Shunpike restoration project, which will be upcoming, so pay attention to the site and get your fingers walking, and then get outside and whatever we're directed to do by those who are running the project, we want to help them out. Because it does actually require, that grant does actually require a certain level of volunteerism, so we're looking for hours, and that's a good opportunity for those who have available hours to give. Again, thanks to the JCs, because they threw some money at us as well, so thank you again. Also, do not forget that the Adopt a Drain program is underway, and we need more drains adopted. We don't want to leave them alone out there, because there's a lot of them. It's somewhat of north of 1,000 actually, and that helps all of us, whether it be by flow of a river, but DPW not having to spend so much time there if we help out on a more regular basis. Again, visit the site and see what you may be able to participate there. I think that's a terrific, easy one for us, because it's so local. You get out there a couple minutes, clean up in front of you, and move on. The next subject is the library, and I'd ask all of us in the room to give a drum roll, please, because the fact of the matter is the back entrance is open. If you are not aware, you can be aware and take advantage of a really great setup on the ramp and the stairs. It's a safe and welcoming and really an attractive entrance, plus the fact you can walk right through the parking lot right there. So that's really terrific, terrific news. All right. Also with the library, the summer reading program has started. It's kicked off with a visit from Zoophoria. The theme this year is Adventures Begin at Your Library. So do participate in your library. A couple of hellos and goodbyes. We do announce that we have hired a new assistant director at the library. Her name is Lori Fastamol. She joins us actually when's July 1st? This week. Next week. So she starts July 1, so come down and say hello. And we thank certainly Debbie Fitzgerald for her many, many years of great participation and support for her many years that she spent at the library. And then, of course, don't forget, we're still celebrating, as of May 10th, the 100th year anniversary, so come and celebrate your library, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Committeewoman Rowland?
No, I think outside of the historic preservation easement at the Red Brick Schoolhouse, I don't really have any updates.
Sorry, I didn't mean to steal your thunder.
That's okay, that's okay.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Choi?
Thank you, Mayor. I do have some notes to share. In the realm of recreation, happy news to report baseball. The U13 Chatham White team earned a hard-fought championship. Cross country was the runner-up in their division at championship weekend. Field hockey is currently or imminently conducting their mini camp in July. It will be run by notable coaches from Keene. So if you have any children who might be interested in the sport, please do have them sign up. Lacrosse, wonderful news. Varsity Girls has won yet another District 3 championship. So hats off to you all you girls and the coaching staff there. 8th grade girls and 8th grade boys. The boys reached finals and the girls earned a undefeated season. Registration is open for all fall sports, so soccer, which is both recreation and academy, is up and running, football, and preseason starts August 13th, so get your summer vacations in if you have a young football player because the summer is short. They're also conducting a fundraiser as they'd like to raise some funds for some improvements to their shed, so please be on the lookout for that. Field hockey has also got open registration. I'd also like to put forth a casting call to all township residents. We've got an open spot for the Joint Rec Advisory Committee, so please do take a number and form a line out the door for you all who are eagerly awaiting to serve in that capacity. I did previously report on a consideration that involved potentially lighting up Lum Field. I don't have anything to report there, but it is a rather material possibility that would be quite a boon for recreation and general activities in both Chathams. So to the extent there's any notable progress, I will continue to report on that and make sure I got all 10 fingers on that pulse. Board of Ed, the security vestibules are currently being constructed, so it's underway, and I do believe that all of them should be in place by the beginning of school. There is some consideration, given what I understand to be the overwhelming success of having pushed back the time for high school. They are considering possibly pushing back time for middle school. So that's something that's being thought over. And if you have an opinion, can certainly speak to the members of the Board of Ed. Susan Ross is, and Lotta Kenny are the township liaisons there, so feel free to speak with them about that. But interesting notion. The school calendar for 2024-25 was adopted, so go ahead and put forth your family vacations and other commitments outside of school. 100 survey participants were involved, and overwhelming preference for the 4-day Labor Day weekend and a much longer Christmas holiday winter break. Chatham was also selected as part of a federal litigation against a lot of social media companies. They are one of 12 school districts, one of 2 in the state of New Jersey. It will be, believe it's a California court venue. And the notion here is to hold these companies accountable for what is understood to be a link and correlation to the ever-evolving mental health of teens in this country. And they'd be seeking to get assistance for costs on implementing solutions and abatement plans, changes to business practices, and potentially implementing safeguards for the youth in this country. Information is rather limited and disjointed as far as what's being shared, and a lot of it is behind closed-door sessions. They are in deposition right now. It is going to be moving like all large-scale sort of class action litigations at a glacial pace. Their hope and desire is to be before the courts in 2025, and that's probably a very optimistic timeline. But to the extent, again, that anything material that comes forth, I thought it was something interesting, and certainly, fodder for water cooler conversations. I also previously reported on a possibility of an arrangement between Chatham and Harding, where Harding students could potentially be enrolled in Chatham schools. There is no notable progress on that. I understand some discussions have transpired and nothing definitive. I have received some inquiries from residents on where things stand there, and it seems to be somewhat, gradually escalating. So it is obviously potentially a material change to the school system should that occur. So again, I will keep you all abreast here in this venue. I can also just suggest logging in via Zoom or in person at the Board of Ed meetings. They certainly are. It's an open doors there. They will discuss everything transparently and with full intellectual candor. So something to keep abreast of. TEDx, which is an event held by Chatham High School, students just occurred on June 11th. And I would like to give special recognition to the students who stepped up on that stage. Aiden Manning, Lily Arps, Christina Stewart, Anne-Marie Lord, and Sophie Mayer. Patrick Ryan, who emceed the event, and Carolyn Woods, who is a Chatham High School teacher who participated in the event. Hats off to them, because I appreciate wholeheartedly the courage, commitment, and hard work that it takes to stand before your classmates, staff, and parents, and other interested parties to listen to what you have to say. So the concept or the theme was reframe. So collectively, students talk about a wide range of topics, from neuroplasticity, which has to do with the gradual changing of the wiring in your brain, to sign language, to corn and the byproducts of corn and its prevalence throughout all the products that we consume, and its eventual impact on the environment, to leukemia, to anxiety, and meditation. So it was a panoply of topics, and I thought it was very well run, as it always is. And if you missed it, it will be made available later this summer at TEDxYouthChatham.com. So you haven't watched it, it's a phenomenal production, and I think it's yet another wonderful thing that the schools here in this community put together. So hats off to the students who participated, and to everyone who had a hand in making that a reality. And with that, that's the end of my notes and reporting.
Thank you. Wonderful. Okay, so we're going to move on to the hearing of citizens. Mr. LeConte, can you read that guidance?
Members of the public are now welcome to come up to the microphone to address the Township Committee. This is an opportunity for any member of the public to be heard about issues which are not topics scheduled for public hearings tonight. Those present may step up to the microphone to be heard. If you're watching via Zoom, you may speak during any of the public comment sessions following the Zoom instructions to raise your hand. Whether in person or online, when you are recognized to speak, please mind the following procedures. Please say your name and spell your last name. Please give the name of your street. You do not need to give the street number. All public comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Rather than use any of your time answering questions, the Township Committee will wait until you finish speaking before responding. There are 2 public comment sessions on tonight's agenda. Each member of the public will be limited to 1 comment of up to 3 minutes during each public comment period. And for those who are not in attendance, written comments submitted to the Township Committee before 3 p.m. today will be read during the public comment sessions. Written comments are subject to the same guidelines as oral comments. Duplicative written comments may be summarized rather than read in full, according to guidelines issued by the New Jersey Division of Local Government Services.
Thank you. Did we receive any letters to read into?
I didn't receive anything with any requests for it to be read tonight.
Thank you. Anybody online?
No hands raised.
Okay. Anybody here who wishes to speak?
Hi, good evening, committee members and gentlemen. Mike Martin, M-A-R-T-I-N, Jeffrey Court. Basically, I'm here to follow up on the bocce court proposal which we discussed at the last meeting. Just to refresh your memory, this was a joint project between what was agreed to the town to provide labor and the Boy Scouts to contribute to that labor. The next steps in the process were basically to arrive at a budget of materials. I've submitted an itemized budget to the town engineer and administrator, and I'm waiting for comments on that budget and hopefully a time horizon when this could be implemented. I recognize that there was a tendency that we needed something like this, but that the exact location wasn't agreed to. So that's where I am here, to follow up on those discussions. I also have Ben Burnish here, who's the Eagle Scout leader, who will basically shepherd this project in concert with the town labor force, and that's why I'm here.
Thank you. If there's anybody else who wanted to speak on that topic, go through those questions and comments, and then we can, I'd ask our administrator to give us an update on that.
Ben would like to just say a word.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ben Bernich, B-E-R-N-I-C-H from Johnson Drive. So I am working on this project, just trying to get it, I don't know, we'll see. But I'd just like to say that I'd like to have this project done, if we can push this project a little forward, because this, the time frame is pretty important for me to get Eagle Scout. Otherwise I might age out or lose opportunities. I just wanted to make sure, or I just wanted to kind of show that I'm interested and will do what I need to get it pushed forward as much as possible, if that makes sense.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank
That's all
you.
I have.
Mr. Burnich, I have a quick question for you. I know usually part of the Scouts you have to provide a project timeline. Do you, as part of the Eagle Scout project, did you have a timeline, or did you have an idea of some target dates that you were hoping to hit?
I was hoping to kind of get this project started and completed over the summer. As once school starts, then it gets busy and stuff. So I was thinking if we could start this project in maybe August and have it completed at the very latest. I'd like to have it completed by October, but I think if we started it as soon as August, then it'd probably be completed much earlier.
Do you know how many hours you put in for that, in terms of how many hours you expect? Do you remember how many hours you expected of the Scouts to put in?
Building or like
yeah.
planning? Building would probably be at most like 30 hours.
Oh,
I think.
Okay.
I don't know quite how much effort it would take, like day to day, to build this, but I don't think it would take more than that.
Thank you. Mr. Shoddy, I know there was a lot of work that was done on this already. Would you please provide an update?
Just for the benefit of the governing body, I did receive an email from Mr. Martin on June 10th with some of the information. What I advised him was that I'd be reviewing those materials with our Public Works Superintendent at our next monthly meeting, and that towards the end of this month, my assistant would reach out to him to schedule a meeting for us. So that's where we stand.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Any questions?
No. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Did anyone else want to speak during the public hearing? Okay, anybody else online? Thank you. In that case, I'll close the hearing of citizens. We're going to move on to the public hearing, final adoption of ordinance 2024-09, solicitor permit and peddler license fees. I will open the hearing for that ordinance. If anybody wants to come up and speak about permit and peddler license fees. Yes. Thank you. So we will close the hearing for that ordinance. Can I get a motion to approve or to adopt 2024-09?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Can I get a vote, please?
Mr. Lois?
Yes.
Mr. McHugh?
Yes.
Mrs. Rowland?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Choi?
Yes.
And Mayor Ewald?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, we'll open the public hearing for 2024-10 pool license fees. Anybody online? I don't see a rush to the mic. Okay, can I get a motion to, we'll close that public hearing. Can I get a motion to adopt the 2024-10?
I move to adopt ordinance 2024-10.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion? Wonderful. I'll take a vote, please.
Mr. Lois?
Yes.
Mr. McHugh?
Yes.
Mrs. Rowland?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Choi?
Yes.
And Mayor Ewald?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And just so residents know, a lot of these were discussed previously in workshop, and then again when they were introduced, so that's why we're kind of rushing through. And a lot of these are really just bringing the code up to speed, or if there were fees that were way behind in terms of update and behind relative to where our neighboring towns are. So ordinance 2024-11, do we have anybody who, I'll open that public hearing, who wants to speak on that ordinance? No one online? Okay. I will close that public hearing. We're going to be going through this routine a few times. Can I get a motion to approve 2024-11?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
And discussion. I'll take a vote, please.
Mr. Lois?
Yes.
Mr. McHugh?
Yes.
Mrs. Rowland?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Choi?
Yes.
And Mayor Ewald.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Ordinance 2024-12, repealing cooperative pricing ordinance, section 2-69, again updating stale, what's the word I'm looking for?
Well, actually, Mayor, we're just removing from
Removing.
our code book, really, these.
Yes. Do we have anybody in the public who wishes to speak on this ordinance?
No hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, so I will close that public hearing. Can I get a motion to adopt ordinance 2024-12?
So moved.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second?
And I'll take a vote, please.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. McHugh?
Yes.
Mrs. Rowland?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Choi?
Yes.
Mayor Ewald.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, opening the public hearing for 2024-13, use of native vegetation. Anybody who wishes to speak on that topic? Okay, I will close the public hearing on 2024-13. Do I have a motion to adopt?
I move to adopt ordinance 2024-13, use of native vegetation.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Okay, let's get a vote.
Mr. Lois?
Yes.
Mr. McHugh?
Yes.
Mrs. Rowland?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Choi?
Yes.
And Mayor Ewald.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, the next two I did mention in my opening mayor's message. We'll have the public hearing on ordinance 2024-14, multi-purpose bond ordinance. I'll open that public hearing. If anybody has any questions or comments. Yep, okay, so I will close that public hearing. Can I get a motion to adopt 2024-14?
So moved?
And a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion?
Yeah, I was opposed to this on its introduction. I'm continuing to be opposed to it. I think increasing authorizing $4.4 million in debt to increase our overall debt authorized by 24% is something that we should have looked at more closely, specifically in some of the most egregious parts of this, I think, are paying for police cars with debt, paying for relatively small dollar amount computer equipment, which have useful lives of 7 years, or in the case of the cars, 5 years. Those should be paid for by operating budget cash and not be put into debt, because then you end up in a situation where you have debt on things that have no more use, or as you can imagine, we have a program to introduce 2 police cars every year, or that is what the goal is. And if you do that with debt, eventually you're going to run into just running up debt all the time without having cash on hand. Specifically, if you're going to have 2 cars every year, and you get into that habit. So I think there's certain parts of this that could be done better in terms of the large dollar amounts. For the fire trucks, as I had said previously, if we are going to stagger their purchases, then we could also stagger the debt. And as anyone on this committee knows, and I said earlier, we adopted debt in April, or we adopted and authorized debt in April, and then we rescinded it in May. We've turned course before, so I'm hoping that we can turn course on this portion of this. And then there's also money in here to authorized to review a study phase for construction of new police headquarters in the municipal office complex. That's $70,000 of notes and bonds authorized to explore the study phase of putting a police headquarters in this building, which is going to be a multi-million-dollar project if that was to move forward. And in my experience with government, you don't spend $70,000 exploring something you're not going to go ahead and do. So this is debt to incur more debt. And we're already increasing our authorization here 24%. So we're up 4.4 million with this authorization. That's 24% increase. And then it seems that this is a great pointer in the future as to where we're going. And that combined with the idea that we're issuing debt for vehicles and debt for relatively small dollar amount things is unsettling to me, that we're sliding back to the years when we had 33% increase in debt and 20% increase in taxes. And we had 2 years where that was all stabilized. And now we're back to 24% increase in authorized debt. So I'm a no on this ordinance as well as the next.
Thank you, Committeeman Lewis. Does anybody else want to speak?
If I may, I have a little bit different perspective, and I appreciate the comments, but I don't see the egregious portion of this based upon the history. So we did go back and look at what was not done in some prior years to put us in a position of coming to a big bucket that we need at a short window. And certainly those things that are going to be financed, we do need to find out what to do, certainly with the municipal building, and that is going to be a helpful piece. But more important, it's all about public safety, particularly in this one, as mentioned earlier by the mayor. I don't have to rehash a lot of that, but that is something I must, as a responsible committee member, support. So I'll be voting in support of this ordinance.
Thank you. Yeah, and I mentioned it in my opening statement, but just to be clear to the residents, 4 million of that debt is for 2 fire trucks and for fire equipment and for police equipment. So it is related to public safety. And as I mentioned in my opening statement, the debt would be staggered depending on when it was incurred. It's not going to be, and it doesn't have to be incurred if we find alternative funding. So hopefully residents, that's clear to our residents. Did anybody else have any additional input? Okay, thank you. Can we have a vote, please?
Mr. Lois?
No.
Mr. McHugh?
Yes.
Mrs. Rowland?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Choi?
Yes.
Mayor Ewald?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to ordinance 2024-15, the capital ordinance, and I will open the public hearing for anybody who wants to speak. Okay, anybody online? Thank you. We will close the public hearing. Can I get a motion to adopt ordinance 2024-15?
So moved?
And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any additional discussion needed? Because these are both linked. Okay.
Yeah, I will just say that in the past, when we're talking about the budget, especially if you look back at last year's conversations about the budget, you'll see that a lot of times there'll be some unanimous consent here, or what seems to be unanimous consent, that the things that I'm saying are, objected to or riled against. And I would just encourage residents to not listen so much to what you hear, but to watch what's done, what actually happens. Because many of the suggestions that I made in 2023, and I've enumerated them during the operational budget, during the budget passages, many of the suggestions that I made, which at the time were said to be inappropriate or somehow not good ideas, were then adopted this very year, including things like, I was told it was irresponsible to change the RUT, the Reserve for Uncollected Taxes, and I was told that it was determined that that was not a good idea and that not responsible municipal finance. And this year we actually passed that. We actually put it in the budget because it was a good idea. We could have benefited from that last year, and we did benefit from it this year in the operating budget. So I would encourage residents to listen less and watch more about what actually gets done. And what actually gets done with this bond ordinance, unfortunately, and the capital ordinance that are related. Unfortunately, you won't be able to see it until next year when the spending on maybe the municipal building or other projects happen. But what is going to happen with this is it's paving the way for debt to be incurred in the future. So you're creating a cycle now where police vehicles are going to be paid for with debt that have a 5-year life. You're going to create a cycle where we're going to study the improvements to the municipal building, and we're going to incur debt to study the improvements, and then we're going to incur a lot more debt to make those improvements. So this, in my view, is a runway to debt and to an explosion of debt that we've had in the past. That's not appropriate.
Okay, any other discussion?
If I may, Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to proffer a different suggestion, that is to both listen and watch what is happening on the dais and what is being passed. You know, sometimes you've got to make difficult decisions, and I think when it comes to these public safety purchases, which are being achieved through financing, they are actions that ultimately must be taken. And I think if we had 20/20 hindsight, these would be staggered over a number of years. Unfortunately, we find ourselves in a position where it is a choice between leaving equipment and vehicles that pose potential risks to our public safety professionals, or making decisions to provide what they need that are compliant and allow them to perform their duties. We have staggered as best we can the financial obligations to put forth this equipment and these vehicles to the professionals over as an extended period of time as we can. The first two vehicles are vehicles which my understanding are mission critical. They're probably, we've asked, I think the township has asked our firefighters to squeeze out what remaining life remained out of these vehicles, and I think it's imperative that we give them what we need. Again, no debt has been issued. These are essentially authorizations which allow us to move forth with potential purchases, and to the extent that any grant monies are afforded to the township in connection with this, then the numbers do change. But at least I think what it does provide is a roadmap that allows us to move forward and get these vehicles in the hands of public safety professionals in as timely a manner as we can. It is not a foregone conclusion. Other doors still remain open, which will continue to be explored. Nevertheless, this allows us timely, right, to put forth mission-critical equipment and vehicles to the folks who need them. Debt, by the way, seems to be thrown about like it's an ugly word. It is not. It is a critical component of municipal finance. It affords us to do things that we otherwise, no town or city in this country could otherwise do without the ability to access capital markets. It is an effective tool. It is a helpful tool if it's used judiciously. And it is my estimation that it is being used judiciously here at the township. Please don't confuse it as being a dirty word. It is not. I think if, what I've seen thus far is the stewardship of tax receipts here is being diligently looked after. There are easy decisions that are being made, and there are difficult decisions that are being made. Some of them have small price tags to them, some have large. We are all taxpayers here. None of us want to needlessly have what is being alluded to as runaway taxes and runaway debt. We're residents here. We pay taxes as well. We would like to see the money is being invested, right? And it is being used, what I believe, quite candidly, in the best way possible. And we are making, again, decisions that must be made now, lest we put ourselves in a much more precarious situation down the road. One thing I didn't share is these vehicles have a considerable lead time. If we do not make decisions imminently, we run the risk of having a perilous situation down the road. So I submit to you, in summary, both listen and watch. Thank you, Mayor.
I would just say also as a member of the Finance Committee and a CPA and a CFO that all the conversations that we had were very prudent and fiscally responsible about how we approach a budget and how we can work with what we have. And, you know, there's 2 fire trucks that are needed, and again, there is a year-long wait period to get them. We're looking into every possible grant sent that you can get to help support it. There are 2 more trucks coming in the next year, so we're gonna have this conversation again, because it's time, and we did not kick the can down the road, and we are doing everything that we possibly can to provide the services that are needed. It's not a nice to have. It's not that, you know, we want to get a newer model. These trucks are past their useful life, and they're big ticket items, and that's the majority of the budget, and that's the reality of the numerous meetings and conversations that we had when we were preparing the budget.
Thank you. I would also add to that discussion, because tools were raised, things like the RUT, which is a reserve for uncollected taxes. I was on the Finance Committee when I first joined the Township Committee back in 2020 and asked about the RUT. And the reality is you have a toolbox of things you use each year to figure out how you're going to manage the budget and manage the tax rate, because nobody wants to assess taxes where they don't have to, or increase taxes where they don't have to. So it's one of the tools, but you're looking at that tool. Everything you touch hits something else. And if you impact the RUT this year, you're going to impact your surplus next year. So you have to look at where do you anticipate being next year based on how your revenues are doing, how you project your revenues are going to do in the upcoming year, and where you are relative to your expense budget for the prior year, which oftentimes our administration tries to keep the expenses down so that we do have some funds rolling over. We fund our $16–17 million budget, about $3.5 million is funded through surplus. So managing surplus and everything that feeds to surplus is something that has to be carefully considered. And the RUT is one of the many tools that are used. So if one year we decide we can't mess around with RUT, you better believe there's a whole bunch of discussion, there's a whole bunch of thought that goes into why was that decision made. So I want to make sure that's clear. The other reality is when we're talking about the police vehicles, which are $140,000, if you're not financing it through debt, you're financing it through the operating budget. And what are you cutting in the operating budget in order to fund that, those 2 vehicles? And we know every year we're funding 2 vehicles, so that discussion would have taken place during the operating budget in terms of determining what are we going to cut in order to fund those through the operating budget. So I think that's it, and I will move on in that case to a vote.
Mr. Lois?
No.
Mr. McHugh?
Yes.
Mrs. Rowland?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Choi?
Yes.
And Mayor Ewald?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, so we are going to introduce a new ordinance, ordinance 2024-16, authorizing deed of historic preservation easement. I know I touched on this. Mr. Shoddy, was there anything else you wanted to add regarding this? Okay, thank you. So introduction, do I have a motion to introduce this ordinance?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Okay, can we get a vote, please?
Mr. Lois?
Yes.
Mr. McHugh?
Yes.
Mrs. Rowland?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Choi?
Yes.
And Mayor Ewald?
Yes.
Motion passes, and public hearing will be on July 16.
Okay, so we're going to move on to our consent agenda. We are removing number 31, which is Resolution 2024-164, authorization to rent affordable housing unit. There's some new information that Mr. Shoddy needs to follow up on before we consider that, so we're removing that from the consent agenda. Was there anything else that anybody would want to remove for discussion?
I guess, do I need to pull out the approval of the minutes if I'm abstaining since I wasn't here?
Can we just go ahead and assume that she's on that one, or
Yes, normally what we do is the minutes would reflect that, you know, whatever you vote on the consent agenda, I would make a notation that you abstain on those particular resolutions.
Thank you. Thank you for making sure we're aware of that. Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And vote, please.
Mr. Lois?
Yes.
Mr. McHugh?
Yes.
Mrs. Rowland?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Choi?
Yes.
And Mayor Ewald?
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. And we will open our second hearing of citizens. Same rules apply. Thank you.
Mr. Alperowitz, you may speak.
Yeah, Craig Alperowitz from Shunpike Road. I just wanted to thank the committee for passing the resolution for the critical infrastructure for the fire department. One thing you might want to consider or ask the fire department to consider, whoever's making the authorization purchase, is to consider what's called a custom remount, which means that a lot of the equipment on the fire truck is actually reusable, but the engine and the fire truck itself is not. So they remount the parts, they save the parts, and they put it onto a new chassis, which can be ordered and custom and basically fit to all standards. It should save a significant amount of money, and it's something that they should explore. Not saying that it's something that they have to do, but it's something that they should very much consider.
Thank you.
Is that all, sir?
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Shoddy, do you know if that was something that they considered?
I don't think, I haven't gotten yet into the bid specs with them.
Okay.
Full document. I know they had a committee where they were reviewing all these ideas, so later this year we'll be getting into those details, and I made a note of it for us to consider.
Great. Thank you.
That is one of the major issues with this, which is that the trucks themselves are neither fully specified nor fully priced. So we've issued debt for something that we don't have fully specified, nor do we have fully priced. So this would be a great example of a situation where you maybe would not want to authorize the debt for something you weren't sure of the specs of or the price of. The other issue is, working extensively with the fire departments, especially on their breathable air mixture compressor, that grant, in part, was that at least at Green Village Fire, they have a cascade system, which was a system where the truck is filled with air, and then from there they can use the truck to fill the air packs. And because they didn't have their own breathable air mixture compressor, they had to take the cascade system to a on-duty, full-time fire department that could refill the air, could refill the truck with the breathable air mix. And the reason why that was the case is that during COVID, the private truck that went around went out of business, and then they were relying only on the county air truck to refill their cascade system in their truck. So to ask them to reuse the cascade system is probably not a good idea, considering the amount of use it's had and what's corrosion and what's gone through there. So I would doubt that they would want to reuse an expensive system like that, but that one that's long served them and they had to use, and now I believe they're going to move away from that because they have the breathable air mixture compressor, which we were able to secure a grant for.
Thank you, and I just want to make a correction. You use the term issued grant. We have not issued debt. We have not issued debt. I just want to make sure we're clear on that. Okay, wonderful. I have a vote to adjourn?
I will make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, thank you. And I apologize, I'm closing, there's nobody else, public hearing, okay. So I will close the public hearing, and I've got a
Now.
motion to adjourn, and can I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. We are adjourned.
Recording stopped.